Alright, I'm going to do a review of Essential Elements Book 2 from a beginner's perspective. I thought I had my mind made up on this book. I think when I had recorded the other video, I was on the last uh, music piece, uh, Swallowtail Jig, and I thought the rest was just some basic scale exercises, but it actually turned out to be so much more in the last two pages. The last few pages are all scales, which I think is really good, especially the way they're written out. But on page right after that piece, there's finger patterns, and this is where it completely changed my mind on if it hadn't already been changed. Uh, Essential Elements Book 2 was very good, especially after that piece. You get, I guess there are more exercises, but you essentially in 2 pages you're hitting first position, what they call position 2.5, position three, 3.5, and then four, which I was surprised by. And it's not just, oh, here, try this position. It was here, try this position from this finger, and then shift, and then 1, 3, shift, right? I think one is even like backward extension, one, shift. So it's like a different combinations of finger, finger, shift, uh, which was very different to, I mean, if I already thought it was different, but very different to Suzuki, where it's more of play this piece, right? It's like 2, 1, open string, shift into second position with, right? Typically with like your second finger, and then playing with your fourth, and then you go back. So it's it. I'm not saying it's like that in the entire book. I'm not saying they're not difficult. I'm just saying that's generally how it goes. And it's also in music, right? You're playing a song, which is always a little harder than just playing a basic finger exercise. But I guess this portion alone elevated the book for me so much higher because now I can use these as my warm ups. Sometimes I'll be honest, I don't have time to do these 2 pages because if you just run through these 2 pages, you can be done in like 10 minutes and have all the exercises and your extensions. You'll warm up with all your extensions ready to go. But sometimes I can take up to an hour just doing the perpetual motion, the etude, maybe one piece. I think it's swallowtail jig. I'm still perfecting them, or at least not perfecting, right? But to a passable degree. Uh, and by the time I get through these, because I feel like if I'm gonna do these, not extensions, well, they do have extensions, but what do you call it? Shifting warm ups, I would call them, or exercises. You want to make sure that you don't stop unless, or at least you don't move on to the next one unless you're actually listening to the note that you're shifting to make sure you're actually doing it right. So that could, for me, uh, I just tend to make sure I hit it twice correctly, or else I will move on. And it could, when I'm done with everything, it could be 40 to 45 minutes, and by then my fingers, I wouldn't say they're raw, but they're starting to get there. It's just because I can repeat the same part so many times in like 5 minutes that I tend to overwork in a very short amount of time. So I was gonna show. I'm gonna try to screen record. And if I don't, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna try to screen record the web page. I couldn't get the damn face cam to work in conjunction with the website. I just couldn't overlay whatever. It doesn't matter. Uh, but overall, book two, it's more of the same, and not the same as book one, but a lot. I would say even less pieces of music, a whole lot more exercises, I would say 90%. I think at some point I wasn't bored, but I was like, dude, I just want to play a song. But I think the only negative one is La Bamba. I as soon as I got it correct twice, I didn't play it again. I don't like it. I don't know if you could tell I'm brown. So La Bamba to me, it says it's a folk song. That is not a folk song. Now whenever it says that something's a folk song or an Irish folk song, I'm gonna think twice if it actually is, because La Bamba is not a Mexican folk song. It, I'm not gonna look it up, but I'm pretty sure he's from LA, so he's not even it's not even derived from Mexico. But it doesn't really matter. But it's like it's a it's a classic trendy song. Everybody with a movie. I don't know. It's just to me, it's like I don't even like it that much. So to have it as a folk song and it doesn't even sound good. Like you can just feel it when you're playing it that it's not meant to be played with a classical instrument, so you can feel it. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't feel good to play. So I didn't enjoy any of it, and it's funny because the piece I enjoyed the most, and it actually came naturally, obviously because I probably already know it, uh, was America the Beautiful, which is on page 36. That one, it felt very satisfying to play. I always tell people that there are pieces that I would never listen to. I would never listen to this music, but when you play it, I like playing it. It just feels different. You can feel the music. But America the Beautiful, and honestly, it was also, I don't know if it was easy because I already know it in my head, so it was very easy to get the timing right. But it also, I feel like the way it's composed feels very natural. All the other ones are decent. I think the only one worth playing afterwards, as like maybe continuing to play it uh, just because of the difficulty of it, I would say is Swallowtail Jig. Is that it? Yeah. Honestly, it took me about a week just to get through the first two measures. Actually, two and a half, and then just to get to the third measure. What I found about this piece interesting, very different from Suzuki, is that you actually stay in second position longer. So after you shift, right? I'm sorry, not in second position, in an extension, right? So you stay in an extension, right, with slurs. And I don't, from what I remember, I'm in book two Suzuki right now, and from what I've seen, that does not happen. You do shifts with extensions, etc. But this one has you stay for about, let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. So 8 bars, and then you repeat. So 16 bars in total, where you're staying in an extension, right? And what made it difficult was I don't think I've ever played a piece that long with an extension. So you're playing da da. I don't right. I'm not looking at it, but it took quite a bit, especially as you're getting the slurs in, right? One two three one two. I believe one two one two three on a down bow, and then up bow two, one quarter note with an eighth note. So it on top of you have all these uh, eighth notes with what is it? Eighth notes, a quarter note. Sorry, yeah, eighth note, quarter note, and then an eighth note. So there's a lot going on there, and then this one actually has you do the extension for a long period of time. Uh, so it's not that I found it hard. It's just that it's just a lot of repetition, repetition, repetition until and then I think it took me about a week of practicing where I finally was like able to make a breakthrough, and it just after as soon as I don't know if other people have experienced this, where once it clicks, it just clicks. Uh, but how could I not? At first I was wondering if this book was gonna be worth it. Once again, I'll repeat it on Reddit. Everyone says that Essential Elements Book 1 and 2 are a combination of Suzuki Book 1. That is not true. Not even close. Because at the end of the book, you're in fourth position. And I'm pretty sure in Suzuki Book 2, you don't hit fourth position, let alone third position. So at the end of the book, they're already having you go down to fourth position. not in a piece, in exercises, but it has you do a ton of combinations. And it took me, I still can't do it cleanly, where it could still take me about 30 minutes if I'm trying to actually get them right. If I'm trying to get every note, like I'm hearing, okay, and I do it twice, and I do the entire playthrough uh, of it. And that alone for me elevated the book to so much higher because it has you do a lot of second position work, like I said, in different combinations. It's just a lot of exercises. So I think it would go well if you do Suzuki Book 2 and this one at the exact same time because Suzuki Book 2, I think the first like five pieces are they're pretty easy to be honest. Well, at least to for me because I've played them before, so I don't know if that affected it. But up until the witches, is it yeah the witches dance? Up until that piece, I would say they're all fairly easy because they're a little similar in how the notes are placed, the shifts. But I will say that when you get those shifts, very satisfying. Honestly, there's not much to say about the book, other than it's a lot of exercises, a lot of uh, just teaching you a lot of timing and hook bowing and teaching you to count. Uh, the the one that I find the most confusing is the one and a two and E2 or something like that, right? Where it's like A and E, and I'll be honest, like for my brain, that just it's hard, but it does work. If and it has you do a lot of counting, a lot of exercises to help you keep track of that kind of thing. But honestly, overall, the book, I feel like when I was done, I was just 100% ready to get into just playing pieces. And I just felt so much more comfortable. And I'm also not just trying to wing it anymore, right? So when I play in the extension, I'm not just, oh, am I playing my hand right? I'm just doing the motion. No, I want to make sure that I'm hitting that note, right? So I'm listening. What does it sound like? And what does the second finger sound like, right? So that I can memorize in my brain what does that note sound like. And sure, I cannot tell you. One of the things that helped a lot in the shifting portion at the very end of the book is honestly just imagining your fingers in separate pieces. So when you shift, you just imagine where those two fingers are. I can't explain how it works, but it just helps to imagine, to just land there. And if you know the tonalization, right, listen for that. Uh, Other than that, I highly recommend it. Do them both at the same time. Suzuki Book 1, if you're an adult learner. Obviously, your teacher go by what your teacher says. I can't afford lessons right now, so I'm doing everything I can to learn with what I have. And I'm a little, it's hard, how do I say this? I have limited time, so I can't, if I was to do both books at the same time, I would feel a little overwhelmed. For example, right now, like I have, if I was to do a full warm up, ideally the way I would want it is I would do obviously my C scale, my D scale with 2 octaves, which involves extensions. They have that in this book as well, which is awesome. Uh, and one problem, I don't know if you have this problem, but a problem I ran into this book, and on the internet, it's the complete opposite. You hear a lot of people with small hands complain. Now, my hands aren't very big in my opinion, but I found that I was actually overextending. So when I thought I was missing the note, I figured it was just a little higher, but in reality, I was way overextending, and I was like, oh shoot, So that's just a personal thing that it took me a little while to realize I was overextending, right? Uh, yeah, and I forgot what I was talking about. But what the hell was I talking about? Oh, being overwhelmed. Okay, so if I was to do my ideal warm up or whatever is the C scale, and now I've changed a little bit how I do the C scale. I'm trying to focus a lot on hitting the notes properly. So I go very slow, making sure that I'm, memorizing what the notes sound like, how they ring, so that I can further be able to hit them with more accuracy. Then I do the D major scale, and uh, then I'll do, I believe I do Swallowtail Jig as a warm up piece, just so I can keep reinforcing that piece, and I can keep learning that song because I'm not fully satisfied at the level that it's at, and plus it has a lot of technique in it, a lot of extensions that I want to keep challenging myself. I don't want to just get it right once and then move on. No, I'm like, now this is a perfect one to include. Uh, for Minuet number 2 in book 1, I've been running into a lot of problems with that one because when I learned it, my thumb position was wrong, or I felt like I was when I was putting too much pressure, it was flat, and now I do more like this. And for some reason in my head, because I learned it when my thumb was at it, it's just like a constant battle of my thumb wanting to go up, and then I get distracted because I'm trying to push it down to where I want it. But it's like because I learned it in this other way, it's like this battle, and then I start getting distracted. I start hitting notes wrong, start bumping strings, and then it's that piece is a total mess right now. I think I'm gonna have to just go back and relearn it um, at some point because it's now when I'm doing it for warm up, I feel like it's a constant battle of the new technique versus the old technique, and it sucks. But so yeah, I would do that one plus the 2 pages. I think it's actually 3 because there's a back page where it has you go one down two. Oh, I can't see, but it has you go down with your third finger all the way to the where you just hold your finger on the string and then you can hear the resonance, right? As you do, that's how it starts to shift. So one or open, and it has you go down, and then you play ones two, and then you go back up with one finger, and then you go back down, and you go with your third finger to that tonalization. So it's I don't have my bow on me, but see, uh, it has you do that, and then it goes into the second position, third position, 3.5, which I don't remember that being in Suzuki book. I didn't get too far in book 3 once upon a time, but that one, yeah. So I was a little confused, like what is 3.5? I'm like what, but that one was tricky for me to learn because I remember my teacher very early on in book 1, he was already having me learn to shift, uh, because I was pretty good at hearing that the tonalization in the fourth finger, which I believe is it doesn't matter what note it is right now. But so I was always in my warm ups. I would just practice. I would hit it and then okay. So when I was doing 3.5 and you have to land on it on your first finger, it was a little wait. That's not 3.5. Sorry, 3.5 is even lower than that or higher, which is below that fourth finger, where the fourth finger would be. And it's like trying to tell your mind, it's like trying to pat your stomach and circle it at the same time because you're got so used to landing there with your second and first finger that well, now you gotta go a little further. It just it definitely was a challenge. Let's just say that. So there's a lot of the challenges at the end of the book. So I feel like you're going through it and it feels easy, although a lot of the timing when it's teaching you how to count can be tricky and a little hard, but it's not. It's more like running drills difficulty, not playing difficulty, right? Once you get to the end, once you get to swallowtail jigs, when you get more tech, I feel like it throws everything you've learned in the book in this one piece, and then it gives you the more exercises and extensions. I feel like I'm just repeating myself at this point. So definitely, if you're an adult beginner with no teacher, if you get bored of doing exercises, then do both books at the same time, and then combine them, or just do one at a time. Like for me, I can't do two things at once. I have to complete one thing and then move on to the other, because then I feel like then my practices are running 4 hours. In this book, the pieces, the exercises, and especially the pieces on Swallowtail Jig, and I did all the exercise. Like my warm ups were getting so long that by the time I got to practicing the pieces, my once I was hitting that 3 hour, 3.5 hour practice mark, my fingers were absolutely raw, and I thought they were already used to it. By the way, it's also because I got new strings, and these strings are thinner. They're not as raspy as my cheap ones. I had some $20 strings on here. These are very smooth. So once I got to the shifting, whew, my fingers could not handle it. So definitely pace yourself. I don't know. I mean, you practice for as long as you want, as long as you can take it. Although I was picking up an overuse injury from the bow because I went from practicing maybe like an hour to all of a sudden practicing. I was some days I was approaching 4 hours and I was getting overuse injury, and because I was right here from being like this for 4 hours. Uh, but if you work out, you can pick it up immediately. I think I didn't take 2 days off, but I practiced for like 5 minutes only for like 2 3 days. Did some stretching and I have a home gym, and I was doing some stretching with dumbbells, making sure that muscle gets nice and loose, make sure the tendon is nice, and it went away and now hasn't come back. Because the last thing you want is to pick up an overuse injury, and if you just try to force it, you're gonna end up with a tendon or a muscle that's gonna need about a month or two of deloading just to get it back in shape. So don't do that. Pay attention to things like that. And honestly, I'm gonna end it right there because I'm just repeating myself.